sponsors an Americanism essay contest. This is our 7th year to sponsor this locally for our 8th graders. And Mrs. Jinkerson is just vital in overseeing this project for us. This year's theme was, what can I personally do to promote Americanism in my school or community? The winner of this year's essay contest will receive a certificate and cash prize from American Legion Auxiliary. Her essay will be entered in the Department of Missouri Americanism Essay Contest. And this year's winner is Bailey Whitaker. And she's going to read her essay for us at this time.
People have often asked retired U.S. Air Force Colonel Scott Morgan how he survived the most notorious POW camp in Vietnam. Morgan's response is that I would walk miles every day, a few feet at a time in a little cell, anything to keep my mind working. Morgan further stated, the most important aspect of survival was pure faith. Faith in God, faith in fellow prisoners, faith in myself, and faith in the United States of America not to forget about me. If this man who endured the unthinkable in a POW camp could keep his faith in America, that I know that I owe it to survivors like him to do my part to promote Americanism. I can vote when I come of age, volunteer at a local food bank in our community, and respect our patriotic symbols. When I come of age, I can vote. When I turn 18, I can register to vote. I know it will be meaningful for me to stay current on major issues. I will need to educate myself on issues I do not understand before voting for the best candidate. Although I think it is significant for people to vote, there are also other ways to promote Americanism. I can volunteer to help my community and work at the food bank, which ultimately helps my country. We have a local food bank in our community that provides families with food, household items, and clothing. By volunteering at the food bank, I can help improve the lives of people in our community. Volunteering is something everyone can do, as well as respecting our nation's patriotic symbols. I can respect our patriotic symbols, like the American flag and the bald eagle. I can sing and honor the flag while the national anthem plays. I can advocate for the continued protection of the bald eagle in the United States. Both the American flag and the bald eagle have been national symbols for hundreds of years and should be respected. To show my love for America, I can vote when I come of age, volunteer at the food bank in our community, and respect our patriotic symbols. We can be the change that America needs to turn itself around. Promote Americanism even in its toughest times, and show our love for America. We are the change that America needs.
Before I introduce the special speaker, I just want to comment. Have I? Okay, excuse me.
I wanted to announce, thank you Bailey for reading your essay, but I need to announce that the VFW and American Legion Post 59 are sponsoring the Veterans Day Parade tomorrow at 10 o'clock here in Dexter. The parade route starts at Harps and goes down Stoddard Street, and we want everyone to try to come and support our veterans. The other thing I'd like to announce is that the Wreaths Across America will be Saturday, December 16th at Bloomfield at the Veterans Cemetery starting at 11 a.m. And please try to come and show your support. We have Mrs. Mindy Thurman's social studies class has once again raised money, this year about $500, to support Wreaths Across America. And on behalf of the veterans, thank you, Ms. Thurman. Thanks to everyone who supported our projects.
Let's start to say first, I want to say how proud I am to live in a community and proud of the school system that we can meet like this. And sitting up here and seeing all the flags of the children, it's wonderful. Thank you. Our special speaker is a man that just grew up in Stoddard County. He went to school, we'll forgive him. He graduated from Bell City and went into the service, served in Vietnam. He is a great friend, active in his church. He raised a wonderful son, has a wonderful wife, and we're very proud. And I think the best thing that I'm very proud of, I call him a friend, and Earl Metcalf.
Good morning. I do consider it an honor and a privilege to be able to stand here in front of you this morning. And I want to thank Shirley and Francis Moore for inviting me here to speak with you. My name is Earl Metcalf. I'm a native of Stoddard County. I've lived here all of my life except for 3 years that I served in the Army and 2 years in school in North Carolina. I worked as a nurse anesthetist at the Dexter Hospital for 37 years and retired from there 3 years ago. At the time of my graduation from high school, there was a war raging in Vietnam, and it seems like there's always a war raging somewhere. Later that year, I felt it my duty to serve my country in the military in some capacity, and on a beautiful late summer day in Bloomfield, 2 friends and I went into the Selective Service office and volunteered for the draft. Against or without our parents' knowledge that we were doing that. And a short time later, I got a letter in the mail saying I would report to basic training at Fort Leonard Wood in late October of that year. The week before I went into the service, some high school friends and I went to a movie in Sikeston, and it was a John Wayne movie, and the title of it was The Green Berets. That had a lasting impression on me, and it has influenced a lot of my life since that day. When I arrived at the induction center at Fort Leonard Wood, there was a Sergeant Jones, a Special Forces recruiter, in his dress greens and his spit-shine paratrooper boots and his beret, and I went up to him and asked him how I could get into Special Forces. He said if I passed a few tests and signed up for a 3rd year, this was before I ever even started my training, if I signed up for a 3rd year, then I would have a chance at it. I did that, and 19 months, some of them grueling months later, I successfully finished my Special Forces medic training. Then I volunteered to serve with 5th Special Forces in Vietnam. And on July the 5th of that year, I left for Vietnam. When I got there, I was assigned to the B-55 5th Mobile Strike Force, or the Mike Force, and that was the unit that was portrayed in the movie. In fact, a lot of our mountain yards that worked for us were in the movie. And they had been flown from Vietnam to Georgia to be in the movie with John Wayne, and they all still loved John Wayne. We closed the Mike Force down in late 1970, and I was reassigned to a unit called MACV SOG. And our camp was designated CCC, which was Command Control Central. A lot of their missions were recon missions, and even though we weren't supposed to be there or weren't officially there, a lot of those missions were run in Laos. I want to come back to Dexter now for just a minute. 2 or 3 blocks from here, there's a statue that stands outside of our Public Library. That's a statue of Lieutenant George Kenton Sisler. A lot of his friends knew him as Ken Sisler. He was a native of Dexter and a well-liked man and well-respected. I never met Ken Sisler, but he served in the same small compound that I served in Vietnam 4 years before I was there. Ken was awarded the Medal of Honor for actions in February of 1967. He was leading a recon patrol in Laos and was attacked by a superior enemy force. And on the initial attack, several of his men were wounded or killed. And Ken personally fought back several attacks by using his M16 and throwing grenades and directing airstrikes. He also dragged or carried back wounded comrades. He was directing in a helicopter to rescue or evacuate some of those team members when he was mortally wounded. Ken Sisler also recommended a mountain in Laos, a steep-sided mountain, as a radio relay site for our recon teams that were on the ground in Laos. This site was codenamed Leghorn, and it was still being used when I was there. I'm sure that radio relay site helped save a lot of lives during the years it was in use. Ken's Medal of Honor was the first Medal of Honor awarded to someone from our compound. There were at least 4 more during the war, and the last one was just awarded 2.5 weeks ago to one of our medics by the name of Gary Rose from actions in the fall of 1970. Gary was awarded, it was downgraded to a DSC, and his teammates persisted over the years that it be upgraded to the Medal of Honor, and it was 2.5 weeks ago. You might have seen that on Fox News that day. One of our other men was put in for the Medal of Honor 3 times in 13 months. He received the Silver Star, the DSC, and the Medal of Honor. His name was Bob Howard. He had more decorations for valor than Audie Murphy, and I don't expect a lot of you young people to know who Audie Murphy was. The 19th of this month is the 154th anniversary of the dedication of the Gettysburg National Cemetery. A lot of you might recognize these famous words from a speech from that day. 407 years ago, our fathers brought forth on this continent a new nation conceived in liberty and dedicated to the proposition that all men are created equal. Conceived in liberty, that was to have the freedom to pursue life the way you saw fit. To go to school where you wanted, to worship the way you wanted, freedom of speech, a lot of freedoms that the rest of the world had never known. And everyone was to receive these freedoms equally. This nation was now being tested to see if it could live up to its promises. Lincoln was not the keynote speaker of that day. That title went to a man by the name of Edward Everett. Everett was a noted academic and famous speaker of the day. And when he was asked to speak at this ceremony, he thought, this is my big chance. He knew there would be a large crowd there. He knew that there would be a lot of media coverage. He knew that the things that he would say that day would be quoted for days and weeks and years to come. So when he got up to the podium, he delivered his speech that contained over 13,000 words and lasted for 2 hours, and I'm sure it was interrupted a few times by applause. Then President Lincoln walked up to the podium and he delivered his 272-word Gettysburg Address that lasted a little less than 3 minutes. He included these words: "The world will little know nor long remember what we say here, but it can never forget what they did here." What they did there on the first 3 days of July 1963 was they fought to defend this country, to try to preserve this country and the freedoms that we had grown to love. How many people remember what Everett said that day? I don't think anybody remembered those words. But the words of Lincoln touched the hearts and the minds and the souls of a nation that was desperate for hope and a healing. We remember Lincoln's words, and we remember the sacrifices that those men and countless other men have made in battles to protect our freedoms in this country throughout time. He also said, we cannot dedicate, we cannot consecrate, we cannot hallow this ground. The brave men, living and dead, who struggled here, have consecrated it far above our poor power to add or detract. If Lincoln were writing his speech today, he would have to add women to the list of people who are struggling today to defend our freedoms. Women now serve in every branch of our military and are becoming more and more involved in combat roles. Just recently, the first woman successfully completed Army Ranger training. That is one of the most difficult and physically challenging programs that the courses that the military has to offer. And according to a friend of mine who still helps train special forces at Fort Bragg, a female Green Beret is not too far in the future. Go girls. Struggle is an appropriate word to describe what a lot of our veterans have experienced. The world has always been a dangerous place, but it seems as though it has gotten worse again in the last few years. With so many conflicts around the world, our troops and our resources are stretched to their limit. Even if they're not in combat, the long periods of separation and the multiple deployments are very difficult for our military families. There are those who have to deal with life-altering injuries, and those who can't leave the nightmares of combat behind them. Then there are those families who have lost loved ones who have made that supreme sacrifice for their country. Those families are left behind to grieve for the rest of their lives for their loss there. Freedom is not free. I'm sure you've heard that before. Nor was it paid in full up front. Every generation has to pay its installment to maintain these freedoms. Toward the end of his address, Lincoln said, "This nation, under God, shall have a new birth of freedom." As we know, the birth process can be long and painful, as it has been for this country. It's been a long, long road from Gettysburg to where we stand today. That road has been lined by the men and the women who wear the uniforms of our armed forces. They have guarded and defended us on our journey down this road. Our flag might just be made from cloth and its stars and stripes arranged into something pretty to look at, especially against the blue sky. but that flag stands for freedom. Its red stripes represent the blood of patriots shed to defend our country and that freedom. As veterans, we don't take those things lightly. Many of you will never wear one of the uniforms of our military, but you will have a family member or a friend or an acquaintance that will. Support them. Thank them. Show them your respect, for they are the ones who have kept you free, and they are the ones that keep that flag flying over the land of the free. Thank you, and God bless the USA.
The strength of our soldiers is in their families. We recognize that the selfless dedication and the commitment of military families directly contributes to the readiness of our soldiers. Families are truly the force behind the force. At this time, we would like to recognize and honor family members who have lost loved ones while in active service to their country. If you have lost a family member while in active service, would you please stand to be honored? Let's give these families a round of applause. Thank you for your contribution and your sacrifice.
Good morning. On behalf of the Crowley's Ridge chapter and the Chalk Bluff chapter, Daughters of the American Revolution, I'd like to take a moment to recognize our Vietnam veterans during the United States of America Vietnam War 50th Anniversary Commemoration. The commemoration honors all United States veterans who served on active duty between November 1st, 1955 and May 15th, 1975. There are no distinctions made between veterans who served in country, in theater, or who were stationed elsewhere during the Vietnam War period. All were called to serve, and the overwhelming majority of these veterans served honorably and admirably. The National Society Daughters of the American Revolution has partnered with the U.S. Vietnam War 50th Anniversary Commemoration established by Congress to thank and honor veterans of the Vietnam War, including personnel who were held as POWs or listed as MIA, for their service and sacrifice on behalf of the United States, and to thank and honor the families of these veterans. The commemoration provides a lapel pin for each living veteran who served during the Vietnam War as a lasting reminder of our nation's gratitude. The pin features an eagle's head representing courage, honor, and dedicated service, a stripe of blue representing our nation's colors, and 6 stars representing the allies who served, sacrificed, and fought alongside one another. At this time, I would ask that all Vietnam veterans stand and be recognized. We ask that any Vietnam veteran who has not received their commemorative lapel pin to come forward to receive one at this time. We have a couple of ladies up here to present you with your pins, if you would come forward. It is with grateful hearts that we join our great nation to honor and recognize your valor, service, and sacrifice during the Vietnam War, and welcome home to each and every one of you.
Now we will have a moment of silence as the DHS band plays taps. You may now be seated.
Shall we stand for the, regard the colors?
Honor guard, attention. Forward, march. Ready, halt. Retrieve the color. Ready, retrieve. Audience, right hand salute. Center face. Recover. About face. Forward, march.
Thank you for attending today's celebration to honor America's veterans for their patriotism, love of country, and willingness to serve and sacrifice for the common good. For our veterans and their families, we will have a reception in the BEC hospitality room. Please stay and enjoy refreshments. I want to thank everyone. Please have a safe travels for the weekend and enjoy the lovely weather. Thank you.